Magic. There you go. Hi, it's Mandy from Hoyt Arboretum, and today we're going to take a closer look at dogwoods. Now, dogwoods are the genus Cornus, and there are several different forms of this genus Cornus. For instance, this shrub here, this is a form of our native red osier dogwood, or Cornus stolonifera, and you can see it's a shrub. It has stems that come up, and then if we take a closer look at these flowers, you see that dogwoods have these typical flowers. They are arranged in these clusters called cymes, and each flower here has parts in fours. So each one of these little flowers has 4 little sepals, 4 petals, 4 stamens, and then it has an inferior ovary where the pistil sits below the insertion point of those other whorls of flower parts. So how do you know when something is a dogwood? If you have flowers or fruits, it's pretty easy to tell that it's a dogwood. Another way to tell is if you look at the stem, you'll see that it has opposite leaves, which means that 2 leaves come out of the same node on opposite sides of the stem. If you look at the leaves have veins that arcuate, which means that they arch and come up to the edge, and they curve right before it hits the edge. But also there's something that I like to call the dogwood test. And this occurs in all dogwoods, where you can gently rip apart the leaves and pull them apart. Uh-oh, that one didn't quite work. And then you can string them apart like this. And this is like magic. It's the dogwood test, where you can see that it has these vascular bundles or vascular strands that are really stretchy. And so if you find a leaf and you aren't sure that it's a dogwood, you can perform this dogwood test on it. Here we are at the Vietnam Veterans Memorial of Hoyt Arboretum, and this is where we house the main majority of our dogwood collection. This beautiful tree here is a Korean dogwood, or Kusa dogwood. This is Cornus Kusa. Let's take a closer look at the flowers of this Kusa dogwood. So when we look at this, you might say, what a beautiful flower, but you're actually looking at a whole bouquet of flowers. Each one of these little bumps right here will develop into an individual flower. So here, what you have is a whole bunch of flowers clustered in this tight head, and what you might think are these white petals are actually bracts. So when you have a situation here where you have something that looks like a flower but is actually a whole collection of flowers, it's called a false flower or a pseudanthium. And in the Kusa dogwoods, they have these bracts which have a point at the end. Some of you may be familiar with the eastern native Florida dogwood, or Cornus florida, that also tends to have 4 white bracts but has a little notch at the end. In the Pacific Northwest, we also have a tree form called Cornus natalii that has white bracts, but it's a little bit confusing because their bracts could be 4 to 7, but they still have the center cluster of flowers. Another really cool dogwood that we have in our dogwood collection is this one called Mexican dogwood, sometimes called magic Mexican dogwood. Come a little bit closer and take a look at these flowers. As you look at this flower, or the pseudanthium, you'll see that there's the center cluster of all of these individual flowers about to open, but this one is really unique because it has these 4 long bracts that actually do not separate upon maturity. And so when you're looking at the whole entire bloom here, it looks like a little lantern. And so this one again is magic Mexican dogwood, or it's Cornus florida subspecies urbaniana. Join me next time as we take a closer look at another cool plant at Hoyt Arboretum. See you next time.